Good morning. This is Center Stage Nonprofits of Tucson with your host, Danielle Johnson. I am so excited that you're here listening in. We're going to have a great show today talking with Nicola Hartman, the CEO of Sister Jose. And I also want to say a special thank you to Job and Sons Plumbing for sponsoring our show today. So, Nicola, thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here today. Thanks.
Awesome. So we've talked a little bit just before we started recording about what Sister Jose is and what you're doing in the community. Can you tell us a little bit about how it started and kind of what the inspiration was and then what you are doing in the community today?
Super. So the center was started in 2009. At that point, it was originally just in a little house, but it was started by our founder, Jean Fedigan, and she had been helping to serve meals to men in the community, homeless men, and asked one of her friends, what happens to the women at night? Where do they go? And they said, well, there's nowhere for women to go. And she is quite a feisty woman and didn't think that was okay. So she started going out and finding women and serving meals and was able to invite them to a small Southside church to come in and spend the night. And volunteers would come in and stay with the women. Well, that continued, and she wanted to do more, wanted to serve women, thought that, oh, maybe there are like 10 homeless women in Tucson at that time, and then came to realize that there were a lot more. And through some inspiration and a little bit of fundraising, she started the center. And it is named after Sister Jose Habde, who was a Native American nun that served the poor. And that was her focus. And so from that little, church and then little house, we're now in our current center at 1050 South Park, serving a lot more women. Unfortunately, homelessness has only increased and has not gone away.
It's interesting that you brought up the question that started it, because everything starts, with one question, with one need that you see. And, just the question of where do the women go? And then being able to build something from that. That's a really powerful story. And, I just want to say to our listeners, when you have something like that, that pulls on your heart and you're asking the question of what happens here, being able to do something about it. I mean, I'm sure when she started it, she had no idea what it would become.
Oh, no idea. I still think she still talks about that. She has no idea, that we're serving more women than ever before, a 40% increase over the prior year. So we're just seeing a lot more women who are unhoused and need help.
And you've talked about the numbers just increasing. And I mean, it's great that you're able to serve more women, and it's great that you guys are there to do this. But do you have any idea why we're seeing so many more that are needing services?
Yes. So we are seeing a lot more women. A lot of it is the rental crisis. So we're seeing a lot more older women. A third of the women we serve are over 55. And that is a big change. We have had women in our center who are 80 plus.
Wow.
Last year we had a woman who was in her 80s and was blind. And, so how does a woman like that end up on the street? For most of them, they're first-time homeless women. They had a nice, safe rental space, or maybe they were in a mobile home. And then suddenly the rents double and triple. And most of them are on a fixed income. Many are on Social Security. And they just can't afford it. So they find themselves on the street with their last of their belongings and nowhere to turn.
And when they come to you and they get connected what kind of services are you able to provide to them?
So great question. So we have a day program and an overnight program. So 6 days a week between 9 and noon, we open our doors to welcome women with dignity and respect. So where they can get a warm shower, do their laundry, have breakfast, get some emergency clothing, and then connect to other services so we can get them eventually, hopefully, housed. But sometimes just the dignity of a shower, and then hopefully accessing your documents like your license and getting a birth certificate really gets you moving forward. And so we're also open in the afternoon, especially in the summer. That serves as a cooling center and a place for women to rest. And then in the evening, we currently have 42 beds, and women can stay in the center initially for about a week. And then if they're moving forward, trying to get those documents, trying to get connected with services, they stay longer.
And how many women do you typically see during the day programs, and especially afternoons during the summer?
So we're seeing about 100 women during the day program, and then more women in the afternoon this summer. They come because they can sleep. We put down sleeping mats for them, besides snacks and a nice air-conditioned space. Most women on the street don't sleep at night because it's not safe for them. Unfortunately, the street is very violent, and many of our women experience a lot of violence and trauma on the street. And, we'll have a woman come to our center, and she's had everything stolen, down to the shoes off her feet. It's shocking to me how many times we have a woman arrive at the center in the morning and with nothing, and including no shoes, which is pretty horrific.
Well, in mentioning some of these traumas and the things that they're having to deal with every day, are they able to get free counseling to work through the trauma of what they've experienced and try to help them move forward?
Yeah, we don't have enough trauma support. We're fortunate that we do work with El Rio, and they do come in, one morning a week to counsel and work with our guests. They also provide some medical care, so that's very important. But it's a very hard road, and so we at least try to be that place where they're welcome, where they feel safe. We know them by name, and so that is really important. One of the things that I found particularly shocking when I first got to the center was the number of women that we serve that have mental health challenges. I used to think, it's like 20%, but I've really come to learn that it's more than 75% of women on the street have mental health challenges. And so it's really hard to see them on the street when they really should be being cared for and getting the services that they need.
Yeah, and as those resources become available, then it's great that you're able to connect them to what is available. And it sounds like there is a need if any listeners are counselors or if they're working for someone who might be interested in partnering. It sounds like there's a big need for that, and it would be a great partnership.
Yeah, there is. We have case navigators and case workers that are on site, and a lot of times it's just knowing someone cares. When you see, you're less likely to see a homeless woman on the street than a homeless man, but when they have a safe space to come to and to feel like someone cares, then they're more receptive to maybe moving forward, getting some additional help, maybe, accessing some of our mental health providers in the community too.
Yeah, that healing. The healing process is so difficult, the healing journey from any kind of trauma, but it needs to have a foundation of being cared about. If you don't have that, how could you even start?
Right. I
That's
think it's something we all need.
we do,
And we all
yeah.
need a person and a place to go where we know they just care about us. And that, I think, is the one thing that Jean built at the center as the founder, that we talk about being a center of love. And I really love that part. We also welcome women and their pets, so we're the only center that does that. For a lot of women, if they have to leave their pets, they'd rather suffer on the street. And so by being able to welcome, cats, dogs, an occasional bunny, people feel really good about coming to the center. I walked by a woman that is staying at the center today, and she was laying there with her dog snuggled up, on the cool floor of the center with a mat, not just the floor, but with a mat, and snuggled up with her dog so they could both escape the heat.
Yeah, that is so awesome that there is a place for them to go and to experience that and to just have a place of peace to rest. If someone is needing services, if they're, maybe someone listening has someone that they know that could use services, how do they get a hold of you? How do they get connected? How do they get those services?
Definitely, they can always call the center.
What's the phone number?
520-909-3905. Or if they know somebody, they can advise them, come to the center between 9 and noon. That's when we offer most of our services.
And that is a walk-in time, right?
Well, that's our walk-in time, exactly.
Okay.
And then on Tuesdays and Fridays, we also do a lottery. So it depends on how many beds we have available and how many women are seeking shelter. We do a lottery, and we've been full.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. We are going to be back in just a couple minutes right after the break to talk more about how you can get involved and get connected to Sister Jose's Women's Center.